didn't know it did that. All right. Well, hey everybody. Thanks for watching and listening. If you're listening, with me today on interview, I have Dr. Rob Currie, author of The Hunger Winter, which was the fiction book in our May box. That if you got that box, great. Hopefully you're enjoying the books in there. And if you didn't get it, I think we still have one box left, depending on when you are watching this. So, Dr. Currie, thanks for joining me, and I'm excited to talk about your book a little bit and whatever else we can talk about.
It's my pleasure to chat with you today.
So let's go into a little bit about you. If you want to kind of share about your background as far as what got you into writing a middle grade reader, preteen fiction book on World War II, and how all of that kind of came about.
Thank you. I love that question because I love the story in that it shows God's hand and purpose. In the moment, we often don't know what God is doing. So my dad was a World War II veteran. He got me hooked on reading books about World War II. One of my boys does not like to read, but loved to be read to. So when he was a child, I read him kids' books. So my dad got me hooked on World War II. My older son got me hooked on reading kids' books. And just to make sure I wouldn't miss anything, my younger son comes home from school with a page-and-a-half story he dashed off for fun in study hall about World War II in the Netherlands, because my wife is of Dutch heritage.
Okay.
So by this point, I'd written 2 books. I said to my younger son, hey, we should do this as a father and son thing. We're not going to publish, and God is snickering up in heaven, because he gives us a little thing and we say yes, and a little more and a little more. And he knows all along what it's going to lead to. And my son goes, oh, that would be great. I said, I'll write the first chapter, and then you can write the next one. Yeah, Dad, that would be great. And by the time I finished the first chapter, strangely, he was more interested in being a teenager than sitting down to write a book. Never heard of such a thing. But I was hooked on the story. But it was still just going to be a father and son thing. I had zero desire to publish it. So it took me a lot longer than I thought. And I finished it. And I thought, that was a lot of work. I should try to get it published. So God just has his way. You know, tomorrow he's going to ask you to knock on a neighbor's door and ask if they're okay. A couple of weeks, he's going to have you take a meal over. And God is sneaky in the best possible sense. I love to see his hand work in retrospect.
All right.
Some people get offended by saying God is sneaky, but I mean it as a compliment.
Yeah. No. The word is shrewd, right? He uses that.
That would be a better word.
I think
Yes.
that's no, and so one of the things that we're doing at Rooted Book Boxes is trying to find books that help kind of share the gospel message and have like a faith-based kind of order around them, which your book I think does fantastic job of that, and it's very obvious through the book. I think you're very upfront in that part, which I think is great. There's a couple things that stood out to me right away, and maybe you didn't mean for them to do this, I don't know, but the first thing that I attached to was when the brother, right? So the book is a younger brother is tasked with taking his younger sister kind of all across the Netherlands looking for family and food and like escaping the Nazis and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So one of the things that happens really early on is he remembers something that his father always said and something that his dad always told him, and he's remembering that as he's going through this journey. And instantly I was like, scripture, like we're called as Christians to remember the scripture and have it written on our heart and written on our head. And so that was something that stood out to me right away as far as a parallel. And I don't know, maybe it was on purpose, maybe that was what we made it for, maybe it wasn't, but that's how I took it. Can you maybe talk about that and some of the other things that you did in the book to kind of parallel with a gospel message and a faith-based message?
Thank you. So it's interesting. So for you, that part was allegorical, I think. That was not intentional, but I'm reminded of something that J.R. Tolkien said. Now, I'm no Tolkien, obviously.
Yeah.
somebody asked if, I forget how the question was, where it's something like, do you write your books from a Christian perspective? He says, well, I'm a Christian through and through. And so like Lord of the Rings does not have an obvious, there's no Bible verses quoted,
Sure.
that sort of thing. But because I'm a Christian, I'm sure there are Christian themes that come through. I can't help but happen.
Yeah.
And I think others who are more knowledgeable about that series would point out that certain characters are like a resurrection theme and so on. So I see where you're coming from. It was not intentional, but I see it. So you did a good job of summarizing the story. The story begins with a knock on the door in the middle of the night,
Mhm.
and the 13-year-old boy finds out his older sister has been ambushed by the Gestapo. They're coming for him next.
Yeah.
So spur of the moment, he has to gather up what he can and get out of the middle of the night before they come by and get him. And throughout the book, the main character, 13-year-old boy, is saying, why isn't God helping me?
Yeah.
Pardon me. Oh, where is God in the midst of hard times? And he gets an answer, which I won't spoil, from his father, who takes a metaphor that the son understands. And so it's not just adventure, though there's a lot of it. And Kirkus reviews describe it as a thriller, which I would agree with. But it's also dealing with a fundamental faith question that a lot of us have asked.
Mhm.
Even those that are very committed, like, wait, God, what are you doing here? Why? And certainly wartime, it would bring those things to a head.
Sure.
Yeah, most of the members of that family are very dedicated to God, and there's a lot of talk about prayer
Mhm.
and the flow of life when you have difficult situation. They'll pray. They have a saying that they repeat: "Keep your hopes up and your prayers strong." So those are some of the things I was aiming for.
Okay. Um, well, and one of the things that we did, I was looking for, one of the things that we do in our boxes is we add a bookmark. They've been fairly specific to the theme and stuff that we're doing for that box in this month. And when I had both of these books and I was trying to come up with a bookmark for it, I was like, I'm not going to find anything that I really want to do. And really anything that connects. And so we ended up doing was a bookmark, and it says, what you just said, hopes up and prayer strong is
Yeah,
a
I like that a lot.
theme throughout the book. And then two things on the book. In the background, we've got the rocks,
Yeah,
which is a part of the book, and then the orange ribbon. Um,
wonderful.
and so I just thought, like, I think for me it points to like just the remembering of who we have in our lives. Your part of, where is God in all of this, and just
Mhm.
having something to point back to remember that, like, God is with us and he's here and he's helping guide us through even the toughest times, even though it might not always look like that. But the ribbon is a symbol, and the rocks are symbol, something that they remember throughout the book. And so I just that was what we did with the bookmark for
I
that month.
love it.
I just it made a lot of sense to me. What like Tell me a little bit about some of as far as the actual historical pieces in the book, that I know you talk about kind of at the end in the appendix or the epilogue, whatever, some of the
Sure.
specific things. What were some of the, like, actual historic pieces that you wanted to make sure you included in the book, that aren't necessarily fiction?
Yes, yes. So the vast majority of the book is stuff that actually happened. I
Okay.
want to be careful not to spoiler alerts, but one of the frustrating things about writing historical fiction, you're writing the story, you want to say, by the way, this has actually happened.
Yeah.
It's good news, bad news, you're in historical fiction. You can't just make stuff up.
Hmm.
But the good news is, if you dig long enough, you will find amazing things that the average person, including myself, would never have thought of. So I'll just give you one minor example. It's in the book. A woman got arrested because she named her pig Hitler. So that's in the book. That actually happened.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, there are a lot of examples, but the broad historical background of what happened was, in the last fall before the war ended, there were widespread rumors that the war was just about over.
Mhm.
False rumors. Many of the German sympathizers fled the country, and the Dutch government in exile said, let's have all the train workers go on strike so that the German army can't move their troops. Well, the Germans said, oh, you want to do that? Okay, fine. Then there'll be no more food or fuel shipped to the occupied Netherlands. So the Dutch refer to that still as the hunger winter because people were starving to death.
Yeah.
Citizens, 20,000 citizens starved to death. So that's the background. You have a young man who's on the run trying to evade the Nazis when food is scarce. Um, Pets were stolen. I'll be discreet because people were hungry.
Yeah.
Just leave it there. That's true. Um, so that was the background, and the response to the book has been, I'm really blessed. So many of your listeners, viewers would know Corrie ten Boom, who's one of my heroes. The Corrie ten Boom Foundation has endorsed the book,
Oh,
saying
great.
it's an accurate description of what happened. They encourage everybody to read the book. On the book, there's an endorsement from a VP from the Association of Christian Schools International, saying he highly recommends that people of all ages should read it. So far, the oldest reader, would you like to take a guess? The oldest reader, the age of the oldest reader that I know of that's read the book, just for fun. I didn't prep him on this, so.
80, 85.
Pretty good. So the book is written for kids. I'm finding it's connecting with a lot of adults. 95.
95. Okay.
Second place reader is 93.
Okay.
I'm hearing from grandmas that are like, I'm staying up late, too late, because I want to see what happens next.
Yeah.
A guy in Florida who's about my age, so he's about 60 years old. He said this was the first book he read all the way through since he graduated from college.
Wow.
I met with a fifth grade teacher who read the book to her class. She said, this is her words, not mine. This is fantastic. I look forward to using it for years. So praise God. To God be the glory. A lot of people helped me, gave constructive suggestions, but it seems to be connecting with a lot of readers of variety of ages.
Yeah. We talked a little bit before I actually hit record, which I was kind of bummed about because it was perfect what you said. You kind of have a goal and a mission in what this book is trying to do, and a lot of things that you're trying to do and the message that you're trying to get out. Can you talk about that
So
maybe a little bit as well?
one of my life goals is to bless as many people as possible. I said to my wife many times, when I write a book, I'm going to bless as many people as possible. The obvious thing is, I hope I write it well so the person who reads it is encouraged.
Mhm.
But I've told my wife, she's sick of me saying it probably, I want her life to be better in some way because I'm writing the book. I have a chance to talk with you. I'd like to say something that could make your life better. You've already done a lot for me, but what could I return to you? So as part of that, half of the author royalties goes to Compassion International. Many of your listeners know
Great.
that's a Christian agency that gives food and the gospel to needy children around the world. Just a friend suggested it to me, and for me, it was the right thing to do. So I didn't write the book to make money. I wrote the book to make a difference. And I'm having a blast going to school visits. I got one tomorrow. I'll get to meet some kiddos that read the book, and I'll try to make them think and hopefully inspire them to read more.
Yeah. We actually we had a compassion child that actually just graduated. We had him
Oh,
since he was really little.
wow.
Just maybe a year ago or so, we had to get a new compassion child because he had graduated from the program, which is cool. Every time you get a picture, you're like, they got so much bigger. Like they grew
Yes,
up, and you're not seeing them on a regular basis, for obvious reasons, but
sure.
it's neat to see them
Good for you.
grow. So, do you have any desire to do another uh, middle grade World War II fiction book for teens or young kids? Do you have any desire to do something else?
I'm straining at the leash, waiting for you to finish and not interrupt you. I've already started. I know what book 2 is going to be about. I know what book 3 is going to be about. I'm doing the research,
Okay.
which is challenging because most of the information was written about an event 80 years ago
Yeah.
in a foreign language.
Oh, wow.
But I'm a university professor, and so having to dig for stuff doesn't scare me. I
Yeah.
went to the Netherlands 3 years ago, and I hope to go again next summer to nail down some of the details. But book 2 is going to be about, I won't give away too much,
Sure.
an orphanage, Jewish kids, and the power is going to get cut off. And this really happened. This actually happened. And the sovereignty of God, it happened 2.5 months after the hunger winter ended. I mean, not the event hunger, but the book.
Yeah.
So it's the next logical thing. And you got to find places for them. And you can't put an ad in the paper, safe home needed for Jewish child. You know, the authorities are going to see that. How are you going to smuggle out 100 Jewish children? Oh, by the way, would you like to take in a Jewish child and risk the life and safety of your whole family?
Yeah.
Oops, I didn't realize you're a collaborator. Now you're going to turn me in. You know, how do you find these people? How do you get the children to them? And I'm digging up stories. Most of the things that happen in that book are going to be actual things.
Awesome.
And then the third book is going to be based on a true story, which happened about 6 weeks after that. There was a concentration camp on the border of Netherlands and Germany. And the resistance found out that those, as the Allied armies got closer, they would evacuate the concentration camp inmates, move them deeper into Germany, where they would likely die.
Yeah.
The resistance found out about it, about a week before the move day. They stormed the gates and they liberated the people. So I'm excited. I just need the time and the resources, and I'm going at full speed right now.
That's so cool. That's great that you are working on some other projects, because I really enjoyed the book. My wife really enjoyed the book. It's on the list for our kids to read. We throw a lot of books at them. So,
For you.
but yeah, no, that's exciting to hear. And I'm a big, I mean, I was one of my majors. I majored in history and philosophy in college. How I became a college volleyball coach is a whole nother discussion, but that was what I was studying in college. And so, if you can be a fan of World War II, then I'm, and always enjoy reading about the history and all that stuff that goes along with World War II. So I really enjoyed the book, and it's exciting to hear um, that you've got other things in the works. So yeah.
I'd like to pick up on something you said. I think is really good. You smiled and said you throw a lot of books at your kids. So for the parents listening, you want your kids to read. I would like to encourage you to capitalize on what I call the buffet principle. So my late father said he does not go to buffets anymore because when he goes, he overeats.
Mm.
So why do people and so do I, why do people overeat at a buffet, Jason?
So many options. You got to try everything.
Yes. You want your kid to overeat on books, give them lots of options. Maybe you take them to the library and let them pick up 5 books. Maybe you go to the library and you bring home 5 books.
Yeah.
You mention things. There's the more options. A kid who has a video game system and has 50 games to play, what do you think he's going to do? He's going to spend a lot of time playing. The same principle can work with books. Give them options in what they read: fiction, nonfiction, different grade levels, graphic novels, things below their age level, things above their age level, about all sorts of topics, and then give them different formats so they read it. They have a reading buddy, the summer reading program at the library. You read things as a family. You read things in the bedtime, just all sorts of choices, just all tempting choices, and you increase the chances that they will overeat with books if that's possible.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. And we try, we read to them every night before they go to bed. For the most part, a couple nights when we stay out too late, we don't, but
Sure.
yeah, no, that's a big part of it. And I know, my 6-year-old and my 3-year-old. My 6-year-old just started reading this
Great.
year, like actually being able to read a step 1 reading book. And
Sure.
and
That's
my
exciting.
3-year-old obviously can't read yet. And so, still reading books to them, but mixing it up so that it's a little bit thicker chapter book, so that my older 2 can enjoy, the little bit longer book, and we can read a chapter each night and things like that. So
That's awesome.
trying to as best we can. And this has been good for me, because I'm honestly not a huge reader. Like, my wife is the reader. I did in after college and reading Socrates and Aristotle and all that kind of stuff, all the philosophy stuff, I was pretty burnt out on books. So it's taken me a lot longer. But this has been really good for me, and hearing the different ways that the gospel message and that we can get faith ideas
Mhm.
across to our children has been really cool for me, and I've really enjoyed it. So
I would like to encourage your listeners and your viewers to think about the books they're ordering from you, not only as for their own kids, but as a way of reaching other people with the gospel. Um, when they read a book that you send them and they love it, go to the public library and say, "This is an awesome book. You guys need to order that." The library where I live, a lot of times they will. Just it's just that simple. And so somebody who will never darken the door of a church will stumble across, not really, but humanly it seems that way, stumble across a book and get a piece of the gospel on their mind and their heart.
yeah,
Um, by the grace of God, I know of at least 50 public libraries that have ordered my book. And I'm just hoping and praying that somebody that doesn't go to church will stumble across it and see some things about prayer. But you in some segments of the Christian community, we think it's us against them. And they don't want anything to do with what we love. You know what? I found public libraries are pretty open to a patron saying, this is an awesome book. Or if the book's already in the library, write a review. Wow, this is great, everybody. You should read it.
yeah,
And then, somebody will give it a shot and get a piece of the gospel, a gospel seed in their heart.
yeah. No, I think that's fantastic. Um, well, great. Well, hey, I appreciate your time. I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but thank you for being on with me, and definitely look forward to the next Rob Currie book. I'm excited. So
Thank you so much. So just to clarify, I want them to order it from you, but there's going to be a rush to get that last copy.
yeah, yeah,
And if
sure.
if if for some reason you're not able to fulfill, there are several books called Hunger Winter.
Yeah,
The full title is Hunger Winter, a World War II novel.
okay.
No, don't
And
know
then,
how well.
for anybody that wants to tie into what you're doing specifically, and because I know you have a website, and I don't know how much of your research and what you're doing you're posting on there, but any other teachers out there that want to have you come speak to their class, or anything like that, I know you're doing some things like that. Where can they go? I'll make sure to put the link in
Okay,
video, but where
sure.
do people go to find out more about you?
So I'll say it first. The website is robcurrieauthor.com, ROBCURRIE author.com. And so that's got my email address on it. And, send me an email. I'll send you faith-based discussion questions. The back of the book has discussion questions, not faith-based, because I don't want to scare off the public school. I want them to get that Christian book unsuspecting. But for, faith-centered families, yeah, I'd love to send you lists of faith. One of them is, think about Moses and Daniel. They lived in essentially occupied countries. How does that compare to what the Christians were experiencing in World War II? And so you get your kiddos or yourselves to think about some of these things.
Yeah, no, that's great. Um, Yeah, and we include some questions in our box as well, and that might be something that I didn't tell you or discuss with you. For parents, if they don't want to read the book
Mm-hmm.
and then discuss it with their
Right.
kid, if they want to know like what to pull from the book, if they want to have the discussion with their kid, what are you reading about? What are you learning about? What's the book about? We include some discussion questions in the box for each of the books, so
Great
that
idea.
can have that discussion with their kids. So
Great idea.
that's fantastic. Well, Rob, thank you for your time. Like I said, I'm looking
Thank you.
forward to the next book.